To open our first ordinary council meeting of the year, I'll start with our council prayer in Te Reo language. Tēnoi tātou. Ka tuku mātou kia kaha mai ngā māngai ko whiriwhirihia mo te kaunihira o te ika o tika, te mai me te ngā karawaha, me te hakamahi i ngā pūkenga, me te mātauranga i roto i ngā wānanga, me te haka tūri ai tētahi hapori e mata tikana, te tūpotahi ana, kamutu, kakapiki anu i te oranga o tō tātou rohe, haka tau anō i ngā take o te rohe, i runga i te tika me te pū. We ask that through council discussions and decisions, representatives we have elected make imagination, achieving enhances the well-being of our districts and solves the district's problems efficiently and effectively. Just apologies for declarations of interest. I believe we may have an apology from Councillor Kwiskovic if he's not online.
He's having apologies.
He may intermittently have service and be able to be online, but otherwise, so Anto Kwiskovic. Thank you, seconded by Councillor Vusic. Any others? Oh, sorry, and also apologies from Coastal Community Group Chair Chiki Rankin. They have been included in our. Those in favour say aye. Those opposed or abstention. Before we jump into our expectations, I just have a few mural announcements. First off, just really acknowledging the huge week that our district has had in being the host district of Waitangi and the Waitangi celebrations that have happened. I've seen figures upward of 20 to 50,000 people who came to commemorate here. We managed to gridlock 3 state highways, State Highway 1, 10 and 11, with so many people coming to commemorate Te Tiriti o Waitangi and our national day. With that, I just really want to acknowledge everyone who came together to play host and to show that manaakitanga. And I experienced that firsthand over in Waitangi from volunteers, from our police who were busy over the entire time in their uniforms, from fetchers, from caterers and everyone in between. It was such a beautiful occasion for last week that we had. Also just really wanted to take this opportunity to thank our council staff who also worked on Waitangi Day on a statutory holiday, manning our final district council tent, and I know some of our elected members managed to get down there as well, but it was really lovely and the engagement that that I saw from our council staff there is to be commended, Mr. Chief Executive. So please do pass on our thanks to all of our staff who were involved there. We had our libraries team present. We also had our team there for our representation review, and we also had our climate change team there as well. And it was really fantastic to see. So really just a massive mihi to everybody who was involved and took part in all of that. And I was very fortunate to get quite a bit of time with our new Prime Minister, Kiritupa, as well, and got in his ear about the far north. And can I just say for the record that the Prime Minister did acknowledge, not as important as the second point, but firstly, that I'm the most handsome mayor in the country. So I'll take that. And secondly, that the Far North District is the greatest district in New Zealand. But he did concede that, and I will hold him to that. Alongside our custom to now hold council meetings in the lunar phases that are good. Today for me is O Rongonui. Rongo is the god of peace, so I'm hoping that we're not going to have too much debate or dispute or fighting in the room today, and we're feeling that energy as we go on. Otherwise, it's just really great to be back in our chambers. I know we've already had a meeting, but this is our first time meeting since we've had our refresh with the new sound equipment, which I hear does work a lot better, and with our new monitor up there. One of the cool things about this new movie picture theatre type setup we've got in here is that we can try and use it for our community. With that, we've got a really cool awareness campaign for the month of March, but it starts now in February, and that's called Mullet Matters, and it's to raise awareness and funding for much needed mental health services in our country. A part of the challenge there is to grow a mullet throughout February and not to cut it until the end of March. So if anybody would like to join Mayor Moko's Mullet Matters team, then you can find that information online, and we'll look to hosting a gold coin donation movie night here in our chamber now that we've got such a nice big screen in here to raise some funding in that space too. So that challenge goes out to our staff, fellow elected members as well. If you think you could grow a mullet throughout this month, then you can join us. We'll now jump into our deputations for this meeting. Our first deputation is from Jeff Garnham, who is our Health Protection Officer for Te Patuora. Kush Vital, the Medical Officer of Health for Te Patuora, regarding public place and alcohol control bylaw finance submission. Would you get our finance from Te Patuora here?
Awesome, a mullet challenge. Not really good.
I will accept your donations though to the.
That's possible. I've basically a very written statement, and I'm happy to take questions up. My name is Jeff Garnham. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm here today in my role as Health Protection Officer, speaking on behalf of Medical Officer Dr. Hong, who was required in Section 103 and 129 of the Sale and Supply Alcohol Act 2012 to inquire into applications for alcohol licences in Norway and report to the ELC on any matters an officer. We work together to make a wide review over alcohol-related harms in Auckland and Whanganui. As stated in our submission, we fully support Tauranga District Council continuing the current alcohol control bylaw. We see the bylaw as a precautionary approach which discourages excessive alcohol consumption and enables the police to intervene in potentially hazardous drinking incidents in public spaces. The Whanganui continues to see high levels of alcohol-related social disorder, included in areas covered by bylaw based on police evidence. We continue to support the implementation of both inspection of police and community evidence is best placed to review the specific extent of the ongoing situation within the bylaw boundary areas. We would like to take this opportunity to voice our support for implementation of local alcohol policies, which are needed to progress a safer approach to alcohol sale and supply in the region. Public Health Service is well placed to review various parameters around the population burden of alcohol-related harm in the region, especially in the context of health and well-being, which would lend weight to policy matters. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Deputy Mayor Stratford.
Jeff, when would you like to see us start implementation of a local alcohol policy?
Yesterday.
Okay.
Thank you. To the Councillor Foley.
Thank you, Jeff, for your presentation. Just on your deputation today, the recent case law relating to alcohol, and I think it's Auckland Council, relating to that, is that specifically relating to your timing of now reviewing the bylaw?
I think the case you're referring to actually relates to alcohol policies, local
Yes.
alcohol policies. Yes, but my understanding of that now allows community much more say, and also it's the interference of the liquor industry.
Any other questions?
Just if you wanted to add other areas to the alcohol ban, like I'm saying Lake Ngātu, because you know, a lot of local, we have Waka Ama there, and a lot of kids training there every day, and the build up of broken bottles and all kinds of refuse that come from drinking. So if people wanted to add extra areas,
Well, that's via the council process.
Yeah.
Most certainly, I used to live in Kaitaia years ago, and Lake Ngāti was a place which has a certain amount of seclusion and distance. So it's a type of place people will drive there and drink and do other mischief as well, or drink to excess. I'm sure that still occurs. It was happening in my day, and that's some 20-something years ago. Thank you.
Look, I've been a councillor for quite a long time, and it comes to the point of time, you know, in regards to alcohol and drugs. And we have different organisations coming in and say they're going to do this and that, and nothing really happens. And you're dead right, it is a huge problem. What do you do? What do we do? At the end of the day, you know, really, nothing gets done. And that really worries me in many ways, you know. For instance, if we have a new subdivision, let's say north of Waikato or something, you know, one of the first things that will happen will be bottle storage, etc., etc. Yeah, and these things do happen. I see it in Kairaia, for instance, and it is a worry, but
Well, that's where you need your local alcohol policy in place.
it's a couple of things.
That's council.
It is.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from, mate.
I think this chamber holds the power of regulation in this space and control through our local alcohol control. I think the mixed message we might be getting is the enforcement of how that comes across and the education pieces that come to it. So while we have a functioning role to play here, it also comes alongside central government agencies, local health organisations to come together to make it work for our communities in that space. Would you say, Jeff? Or
Yes, so of course, while it's enforcement role, what's really critical is education. Because you can enforce as much as you like. People don't drink. They don't want to drink. So there's a whole society that can do it. And it's not one agency, it's a combination of everybody. Yes. And
thank you very much, Jeff. Now, was Bill also going to speak?
yes, he's separate from me. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bill, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I don't want to mispronounce your surname. How do I say it?
Yolanders.
Yolanders.
Yes, old Scots name. I will talk briefly, but first of all, I'll say what happened to me a few years ago. And my job, my business is research and development, and we will be opening a new research place down in Kawakawa. But we bought a house 18 Butler Road, and 20 Butler Road, which was just up on top of the hill, had a tin shed on the back of the boundary, on our boundary, inside his section, on our boundary. And the couple that lived there, he liked beat music and drinking, and she didn't. So he was not allowed to keep his amplifier in the house. He had to keep it in the tin shed. And he would go out into the tin shed and crank up his beat music reasonably loud, and then he would get drunk and go to sleep all night with the beat music going all night. Now, quite some time ago, the council made a law, noise control were not to attend Butler Road. They just wouldn't go there. There's apparently a lot of places they won't go. The noise control officers, I don't know if they've been instructed now, but they won't go up driveways. Because my daughter is striking the same problem that I struck. Anyway, our next door neighbour used to get drunk and listen to his beat music, and we called noise control. And I think it was after the third or fourth time they came, he had his amplifier confiscated, but he got it back and he started all over again. And noise control came and told him to cut it down and went away. And he came down my driveway, absolutely blind drunk, and high. And he'd actually done it a few times before, but my wife always made me go and, you go and hide in the house and I will diffuse the situation. Husband, go away, come and talk with the guy outside. But one day he came down and my wife was away. He was drunk and very aggressive and a reasonable amount of blood was spilled. And my kids were in the house and I had to haul him inside and get the blood off and get the whole thing cleaned up. And then he started in the brawl again. He was out to it. So after the whole thing settled down and the police came and talked to him and came and talked to me, and I had to go to anger management, and had a whole lot of nice people sitting around and said, well, look, noise control will not attend, and I'm a grumpy old man, I'm 81 now, and if you play beat music in my bedroom window at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to get irritable about it. What do you expect? And blank silence. There was a young policewoman there who talked to me afterwards and said, it's a major problem. They get high on alcohol, they get high on adrenaline, and the mixture of alcohol and adrenaline in your bloodstream, you're away with the bears. And we are now getting kids addicted to the adrenaline of the constant beat. And my kids go and play in the excellent skate park and kids playground, and half a dozen older kids will be over in the basketball ground with beat music constantly going, and the kids are getting addicted to beat music. Every time I go to the playground, if there's any of it there, I go and no, switch it off. You are not playing that while my kids are playing in the playground. I've had adults come and park their car on the roadway outside the toilet, turn the beat music in the car up and go and play on the skate park. And the kids are getting addicted. And alcohol is a major problem, but at least there are bylaws which keep it sort of under control. There is no bylaw, or there is a bylaw that the people addicted to beat can play it 24 hours a day, 20 feet from my bedroom window, and noise control will not attend. They simply don't come. And once early on, when they started coming, they came up and I had a talk to him, and the guy said, it's the council flats over there. I'm not going in there. I put my hand on his arm and he went to walk past, and I put my hand on his arm and said, I'll come over with you. No, I'm not going over there, and now you've assaulted me. And very shortly after, I got a note from the council. Our officers have been instructed not to come and see you, and they wouldn't come to my place. They wouldn't go to the council flats. And then shortly after, the whole of Butler Road was banned from the officers coming down. Now, my daughter tells me, she's the opposite side of Kerry, that they won't go down driveways. They simply refuse. They won't come to your house and listen to what it's like in your house from the next door neighbour. They park 100 metres up the road and say, oh, that's okay, and drive away. Now, if you're going to have any noise control bylaw, do something about it. The guy who was addicted, I finally got it under, and I finally got Butler Road under control. No thanks to the council, no thanks to noise control. I got him under control, and I did it just the other day when we got a new tenant come and move into number 65, I think. And he brought his amplifier with him and cranked it up. I think the first day he was there, and I went straight down and said, I will apply to the court to have your tenancy ended if I hear any more of this. I didn't ask him to turn it off, just turn it down. I don't want to listen to it in my house. And he immediately went and put it back in the house and turned it off. And I walked back to say thank you because I thought he turned it down.
Just have
Okay,
minute left.
that's all. This is what is happening because council does or can't blame council. Noise control will not even attempt. I don't care because I fixed my problem, but my daughter is now getting the same problem in Jacaranda Road. And she's a single lady and she can't go out and threaten to beat people up, which I can't do anymore anyway at my age. But it is coming to blows. It has come to blows. And the police simply came round and said, well, thank God someone did something about it. We can't, they couldn't accuse me of attacking him, of hitting him, which I did, because he came down to my place. They said, you can't do that. Well, what else am I supposed to do? You lot don't do anything. Oh, well, we're not doing anything. Council has a problem. And I don't mind so much because Butler Road is now under control. I go to the kids' playground and the kids are getting addicted to the beat music. And that will affect them the rest of their lives. People with two addictions are a problem. Alcohol and beat music. So do something about the public beat music. Now, my friend started Quail Ridge. Yeah, okay. And they tell me over at Rainbow Falls, you can hear Kerry beating. You hear the thud, thud, thud. And the beat is martial music. Beat, left, right, marching off to war. Left, right, beat. It's martial, okay.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much for your deputation to us today. And what I would expect is that every single resident of Far North will have the same treatment, be serviced by our council contractors or noise control officers in the same way. So I will ask our chief executive to look into this team within our council and how that works. I would expect that we have not blacklisted any certain streets or treat any house differently and where it is in the farm. So thank you very much for your deputation.
Well, I've been told by council that you did, that they will not go down Butler Road. I think they might now, I don't know.
We'll look into it though, Bill. Thank you very much for your deputation.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You as well. Our next deputation is from Pat Miller, the founder and a trustee of Operating Flotation Charitable Trust regarding plans for the rollout of flotation devices on New Zealand beaches.
I'm Pat Miller, and some of you will know that in 2018, following a drowning at Capel Bay, I set up Operation Flotation. The main purpose of Operation Flotation was lowering the number of drowning deaths by using flotation devices at beaches. Another objective was to work with or affiliating to other organisations with similar objectives. Whilst initially the water safety organisations were hesitant to endorse putting flotation devices on our beaches, in 2021, Surf Life Saving New Zealand obtained funding from New Zealand Search and Rescue, and that was for a project to research the issues and create standards for our New Zealand coastline. The standards were released in December, just gone, and the document's called a Guide to Public Rescue Equipment for the New Zealand Coast. And you'll see in that document, I've given you snippets of it. We want to give you one why. You'll see that the document is dedicated to the man who died at Capel Bay in 2018, and also an acknowledgement of my work with Operation Flotation, which inspired the development of the guidelines. We all know that achievements like this don't happen with just one person. And I had a lot of help from the community and business organisations, and actually also the Far North District Council, who was very supportive right from the start. Thank you. So once the guidelines were published, I thought, great, now I can let Surf Life Saving get on with it. But no, a little twist to the story. Surf Life Saving receives, New Zealand receives funding and sponsorship from several sources. But as a national charity, their budget is tight. So they asked me if I would consider a volunteer role to help them roll out the new project. And I said yes. And so the new devices that they came up with in their research are these ones. They're a little bit different to the ones that I initially put up in Cable Bay, but these are the ones that are now New Zealand standard. And I have also gifted the name Operation Flotation to them because they really liked it. And I said, why don't you call your project Operation Flotation? And they said, can we really? So here we go. So our own little trust that's in Doubtless Bay will change its name now, so that we remain a community organisation still aimed at funding the continuance of this, but Operation Flotation will now become a national project run by Surf Life Saving New Zealand. So what I wanted to say today, I want to start by talking about Safe Swim. The Safe Swim website and app is a collaboration between water safety and public health organisations, and it currently includes Auckland Council and Northland Regional Council, although many other councils are likely to come on board soon. All the Auckland and Northland beaches on on Safe Swim are designated bathing beaches, which means that the Regional Council have a legal requirement to monitor the water quality. And I've given you a list of those beaches. By definition, if they're on Safe Swim, then Surf Life Saving New Zealand has already done a hazard assessment on those beaches. They were done in 2022, and that identifies hazards within a designated area around that beach. But for some reason, it was decided not at that time to get an assessment for signage or an assessment for putting devices on the beaches. I don't know why. I can only think this was because Surf Life Saving New Zealand was contracted by the water quality team, and maybe, I don't know, maybe not the health and safety risk management team. Whatever the reason, the fact remains that hazards have been identified, but no signs have been installed and there's no devices on the beaches. Apart from the ones that I've noted on that list where there's Operation Flotation have put some in. And the way that I look at it is that there are 34 Far North swimming spots listed on SwimSafe, and 25 of them are coastal beaches, or walls or bridges. To a greater or lesser degree, each of those locations have got access roads, they've got parking areas, they've got mown reserves, maybe some picnic tables, and tracks down to the water. So most of these are provided and maintained by Far North District Council. They all give people the impression that here's a nice place to visit, spend some time. That impression carries some risk because it entices people to stop and relax and maybe have a swim. That's certainly what Magoo Renata did when he visited Cable Bay in 2018. And he lost his life attempting to save his children who were caught in a rip. Like I said, the water quality has been regularly assessed. The hazard assessments have been done, but no assessment for location of signs or public rescue equipment that would meet the new standards. So what I'm here today to ask you is to consider this and consider whether you can engage with me and with Surf Life Saving New Zealand so that we can help you lower the number of drownings on our northern beaches. And it's going to be a combination of hazard and risk assessments, signage, rescue equipment, and education to people about, that's really the fence at the top of the cliff, is people come to the beach informed about how to assess how safe it is to get in the water. This is the ambulance at the bottom. That's it. Thank you.
We've got time for a couple of questions. My first question. What's the price tag attached with one of those to put up at a beach alongside signage?
I'll give you some of the pricing at the moment. These ones were imported, but Surf Life Saving, and there are a number of them being imported. They're going to be put on all the Surf Life Saving clubs. The rest will be sold and replace some of the ones that I've put up. They're $175 plus GST. ACC has funded Surf Life Saving New Zealand to create a mould, and they're going to be made from recycled plastic in New Zealand once this first supply is gone. And ACC have funded that. ACC have also funded all of the devices and signage that's going to be put up on Surf Life Saving clubs. The signs, I'm not sure of the price yet. There's a preferred provider called Signbiz, who are coming up with the prices soon.
Thank you. What I'd ask is that you keep us in the loop in this space. Now we have 34 sites plus another 4 not on Safe Swim. And only 1, 2, 3, 5 of those sites you've already put up operation flotation devices across them. I would very much be interested in looking at how we could assist in this space, knowing the lives that we could help save by supporting such a meritable organisation. Were there any other questions from the chamber? Councillor Rakina.
Tautoko your kōrero, I'm sure that every one of us sitting in the chambers today have lost family members to drowning, whether it be in the river, lake or the moana. Just looking at the 34 locations on the Safe Swim sites here, I've noticed that, and I'm not too sure what kind of huge influence you have on Surf Life Saving New Zealand, but of the 34, 5 are on the west coast. I'm not on this time. 1 is coastal Ahipara, 4 harbour, which are Poreke, Rawene, Okononi, or Māpiri. What I would seek or want to influence, have influence on, is the engagement with marae around Waimamaku, Mitimiti, Korukoru, Awarena, or Pata Te Rangi, because I can't see those on the list here, some of which are in the harbour, but the remainder are along the west coast, and west coast is notorious for claiming a lot of our whānau, especially a lot of the ones who come home from the cities who don't have the knowledge about where to swim on the coast. So that's all from me.
I think the true list of places Far Northerners swim would exceed your 5 pages that you've got. Yeah, honestly, have that.
You know, it's just, we just say, let's get started. We started it here, so let's lead New Zealand in it, show everyone else how to do it.
One question. Thank you, Councillor Boyd.
Actually, it's not a question. It's just a big thank you to Pat, because she's actually led the way through not just the whānau, all of New Zealand, and she's a volunteer that's given up so much of her time. And it's because of people like Pat that we are very lucky to have living in Dallas Bay, that you'll be saving lives not only here in the whānau, but all New Zealand. So thank you very much to you and your family for all of your volunteer time to achieve this. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much for that. Our final public invitation today. Ngāti korokoro, ngāti mai haere mai ki te kaungiro o te kāna, mai haere mai ki Tone, i te huitaki ki a mātou o tēnei kahinga, ngā mihi ui. Te corporate building, who is the kai kōrero o Ngāti Korokoro Hawhu, and also Auntie Sheena here in the chambers today, regarding he hakaputanga, me te takahi I te tiriti o Waitangi. Peter, pass the time over.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Christina Ross. Takarinoa. Te Ramaro Tamana. Marae. Looking at Te Awa. Matatua Waka. Anyway, why I'm here today, as we have heard about the weekend just gone, talking about tino rangatira here. Right. We also hear third generation from the Triki Signa Joey. Rangatira Muitara. The other question that I say is that, well, it was also that was new to me about learning about Puro. I've been introduced into our waterways. I have been in the hearings in regards to the fresh waterways, like T358, as a claimant. Price of the hapu. So here that's getting involved in this sort of thing, and we would like to hear all resource consents from PNGC, and not to be left out on anything. As we heard on the weekend, it's about tino rangatira hapu. Talk to us. Just heard in the corridor just before about Marais. Sorry, I have to say this. Marais did not cite Te Tiriti o he Wakaputanga. We did not cite Te Tiriti o he Wakaputanga. It's a hapu. My great-great-grandfather, it is a takegi. Same Marais. But I need to make that clear. Marae is a reservation only for hui, Hangan, unveilings. Marae does not override the mana of the hapu. For those who are wondering what's Korokoro, we descend from Tupuna. And our Tupuna Korokoro is in Te Ramaro. That's all I had to say here today, but my Panoanga, he also descends from that descendant as well of Te Ramuitara. So I thank you for allowing us to come and kōrero about this fluoride going into our awa, or into our fresh water, sorry. But it would have been really good if we had known. And there's a lot of resource consents that we're being left out on. Why? Where's our tino rangatira tana? Where's our respect? And we make it clear to everyone that we're a hapu of our own. Each hapu has your own tino rangatira tana. And I'm sorry, I've said it many times throughout the hearings, everything. Marairu. We will not be thrown into a bag of quishals. We are a hapu of our own. And of our own roki. So with that, that's all I've got to say, but I would like to say one more other thing. With respect, we have lodged a claim within the Environmental Court of Ngāti Kaukuru. So I thought I'd better, be gut and pono and say, we have lodged it in the Environmental Court in regards to the Openania and all Mātere Wastewood. Kia ora tātou katoa.
Kia ora mai tātou katoa, ki whakamoimiti o te hui tēnei o te hata, ngā mihi, ana hoki ngā mihi whakatau mai. Rā, anō rere e tātou mā, ko Clifford Morgan, hau ko te whānau Royal, ana hoki he kai kōrero o he wakaputanga, ana hoki tāhe a te tiriti o Waitangi. Mō tahapu nā te korokoro hapu. Nau reira tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa. Reo, rua, Appreciate our time is limited. I'll be as brief as possible here, Tātou Mā. It's important that this be recorded on the record, the public record. One of the most significant findings of the Paparahi o Taraki Stage 2 report was that Ngāpuhi never ceded sovereignty. And so we bring this to your attention, because if Ngāpuhi never ceded sovereignty, who is the sovereign power and authority? Of course, the whenua Kaunga tuku iho. We would like to provide our evidence, substantive. It's our history, but is backed by fact and evidence to the administration, so that we can start this cordial around how we engage and move forward with such a phenomenal finding. We already knew this, but we appreciate that it's finally out. So nā reira, in terms of mana whenua, mana moana, mana awa, and mana ngāhere, we have as primary source title holders of the unextinguished native title. We have a primary interest in any of the matters in relation to Te Rōpū Council's mahi and our rohe. This is it. And I'm thankful my cousin for standing up, as she has over nearly 30 plus years, to defend and uphold our mana. No data. In terms of the fluoride, we would appreciate a position statement, a very clear one from this council, on what they intend to do in terms of the assumed Director General's mandate of implementing neurotoxic hazardous 7 waste toxin into our water supplies. Now, why I bring that up is that in that position statement, and I can provide the details, there is currently a case proceeding, and it's of international interest, and it is by the Fluoride Lawsuit 2024 bench trial in the USA. That's been 10 years in the making. And I would appreciate this council reviewing the data, it's available now, and cease any and all intention to implement that mandate assumed until the outcome of that trial. I think that's fair enough. It's garnered international interest. And we are here just to defend the rights of everyone, not just us, in terms of how precious and special our wahi is. And so also we would also like for and on the record to note that Ngāti Korokoro Hapu support the wero by the Counter Poison Northland Fluoride deputation that came to the last week that I attended and listened to with comfortable their concerns and support. Also, in terms of P80, we say here and on the record that Ngāti Korokoro Hapu do not consent to any drops, any pollution from the sky of another toxic chemical into our mana whenua, mana ngāhere, mana awa, mana tangata, because it affects all of those things. So we wish to state for and on the record that we do oppose it. We do not consent to that being used in our rohi. That may well be either related to your remit currently or under another department or another ministry, whatever it is, we voice that no consent. Lastly, e tātou mā, and we appreciate that the cogs of the economy need to keep turning. We're not here to disrupt the velocity of the economy in any way, shape or form, but we are here to represent our interests and make sure that these things, where it's necessary, be brought to everyone's attention. I leave you with this. We as Ngāti Korokoro Hapu are a representative hapu of Te Rūnanga o Te Wakaminanga o He Wakaputanga 1835. And the National Congress Assembly did continuing since March 2020 This is the de jure sovereign power and authority of New Te Rere. Details of our past and current will be couriered to the administration by registered courier. No reira e tātou mā. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Nā koe. Te whātauraini ia te tai, does anybody have a question? Ngā koro, e mihi nui ana ki a kaurua, ko a kakanohi I tō hapu, te mira ki konei ki te kaunihiro te ko tika, kia rangatira te rā kia kaurua.
Nei, kia ora. Tēnō mārama kōrero.
All right then. We will get into our council meeting proper, and because we are so agile and flexible, we have some manuhiri in the whare today who are here especially for item 7.6, the temporary road closure for cruising the bays. So we will go directly to these councillors on page 69, item 7.6. The recommendation is that council approves the proposed temporary road closure to accommodate the safe operation of cruising the bays in Pikiri. If I can get a review the Stratford, seconded by Councillor Court. Our NTA manager Calvin has just run to get Fraser because this was later on in the meeting. But did you have any opening comments as mover?
I'm very aware that the organisers of Cruising the Bays have worked with NZD to ensure that the road closure issues that happened at the last event aren't going to happen this time. The road closure is more confined so that the one piece system will still operate, preventing that clog up and the issues that some of the retailers had that was still open. But yeah, I support this recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Court. Opening the floor to fellow elected members. Any commentary? All right, Calvin, as staff, did you want anything to add anything further to what we'll take as read?
Through the chair, I don't believe so, unless there's any questions on the.
Thank you. All right, then we'll put this to a vote. All those in favour say aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Lady Jo.
We'll go to item 5.1 now, which is Councillor Court's notice of motion on the interim street management plan for Pikiri Barrow Island, which is on page 6. The motion is that council consider the impact of the impending changes that were made to the land transport laws setting the speed limits 2022 law. Councillor Court, you are the mover for this motion, and I believe Councillor McNally or Councillor Foy is going to be the seconder. You've both supported this notice of motion in your letter. Someone wants to go on? Thank you, Councillor McNally. I will pass the time over to you, Councillor Court.
Thank you, Your Worship. Don't have a lot to say on this because there's been a significant amount of email traffic which is sent all elected members, everything that I know. I brought this notice of motion not to re-deliberate on the matters of speed. The matters of speed were won or lost on the day, depending where you sat on the spectrum. This is purely about being not profligate with precious ratepayer resources. The Minister has indicated quite clearly that he has revoked the rule that was set by the previous government, and that he will be revoking the speeds set around schools. This will have a financial implication for the Far North District Council on the speed management plans that we've already adopted and those that have been proposed. Because we will now need to review those speed limits and may ultimately be required to replace signage which comes at capital cost. We also don't know at this stage what the new rule will look like. And because of that, I do not have confidence that there will not be further changes required to be considered by the council. So I don't want to see us being, and I forget the sum, I'm sorry, Calvin, you'll be able to tell me what it's going to cost.
Through the chair, I believe the full implementation cost for this catchment within the vicinity of 600 to 800,000 of subsidised.
600 to 800,000.
Signage and infrastructure improvements.
So the notice of motion from me seeks not to revoke the decision that this council made in regard to the interim speed management plan for Kerikeri and Bay of Islands, but to defer it until such time as we have the new rule and we're able to prudentially test against the new rule to ensure that our speed limits comply with the rule before we invest significant money on installing new signs. That's all I have to say.
Councillor McNally.
Can I endorse those comments of Councillor Clark? The idea of bringing it to this meeting was, as Ian suggested, is I was hoping we might have additional information from Waka Kotahi on behalf of the Minister of what direction might be. And I just think deferring it, hold it, leave it on hold for a little bit longer. We've done the implementation. So part of today is, can we actually, what time do we hold this? Till we wait for the Minister, so we know exactly what's happening. Because one of the things I referred to in this report, Elizabeth or Calvin's done, is works associated with the implementation of this interim speed management plans are included within the approved 23-24 council plan budget, including the associated subsidy approvals. Are those subsidies guaranteed? Is a question I have. You know, we might say, yeah, we'll go ahead. And the Minister says we're not doing any of this, so we'll be paying for that. There's just a few questions that he's given that I think need answering before we progress to the next stage, which is putting the signs up and carrying on with what's been agreed to previously.
Thank you, Councillor McNally. Calvin, in your response there, if you could add to it, my question is, I agree, put it on pause, I'm in support of this, not in stopping it, but just in deferring until we get a better look at what game plan is. Where I'm coming from though is wanting to ensure that we take our people along the ride with us. So for all intents and purposes, we've had a huge consultation with people of Bay of Islands. We've said, here's our speed program. This is what we're thinking. Then we had submissions. Then we said we're going to hit go on it. We've got direction now from the Ministry of Transport and from Waka Kotahi that actually we're going to, if you haven't done it yet, don't do it because we're going to, you know, reset the game. Have we been in contact or communication with, you know, every person who submits then gets an automatic response from council saying, thank you for your submission. And for all of those who came and gave verbal submissions, you know, for all intents and purposes, the communities of the farm think that this is, can we ensure that we are keeping them in the loop? Like, we've put this on pause, waiting for further direction because of these reasons. Were there any people, like I'm thinking of Skills, who were stakeholders that we actually reached out to in this space so that we can also email them to say, hey, this is what's going on. I just want a little bit of clarity around our communication plan in this space because for all intents and purposes, this is meant to be going ahead, and what we are potentially going to set with this recommendation is holding off.
Through the chair, I'll get to your question. With respect to councillor McNally's point on the subsidised funding availability and guarantee, the funding associated with the program is approved and remains approved through to the end of June 2024. That is part of the current approved subsidised NLTF program. With delays and that have been incurred to date, we are already at risk of implementing that full program. And there is no guarantee that that funding will continue beyond that. Any further delays mean that that funding and that component of the program will not be able to be delivered. So that's just for knowledge, and I don't believe it should impact whether you go ahead or not. I think it is prudent to understand the minister's direction moving forward, and we had hoped that we would have received that in late January, but as yet we've had no further guidance. With respect to the comms plan, to date, following receipt of Councillor Court's notice of motion, when we received any media inquiries, we said that the work was on hold, pending discussion at council meeting today, and we haven't taken any proactive steps beyond that until we receive any decision on the way forward. I believe we would have registered all submitters and those sorts of things. Yes, Elizabeth is nodding. And so depending on what's decided today, we can work with council on some kind of standard holding messaging on what is the plan. I think one thing, just to clarify, the minister's decision will rescind the rule, but as we understand it, will not require retrospective application of a new rule to existing treated. So one of the things the minister was stressing was that he did not want in councils to invest in development of new plans, which was the 24 start of it to be the 24 to 27 regional speed management. That speed management plan has been put on hold. If you recall, in a previous, I believe it was the Tikoku meeting, there was the decision about which catchments were going to be included in that regional speed management plan. Once we've received direction from the minister's office about what the new plan looks like and what the new target, we will bring that back to council in terms of what a future review might look like for 24-27, if any. I think ultimately, council is the road controlling authority and has a responsibility to set speed limits. This is about how that is set and how those are funded.
Thank you. Deputy Minister.
I actually want to speak against the notice of motion, but I'm proposing a foreshadowing amendment. And I'll just read it out and then speak to it. And tell you why I'm voting against it. As the motion stands, I would vote against it, but I would support adding and that council continue implementation of all the changes within the previously council approved speed management plan for Kirikiri Bay of Islands. And the reasons are that in my, when I became aware of this notice of motion, I went hunting for what the minister's intent is, and the minister's intent isn't to take away local decision making on developing speed management plans. He's not looking to have this, make a rule and we have to go back and change stuff. He's just trying to make it so that we don't feel we need to have these blanket speed reductions across catchments. But what is different about our district compared to other parts of the country is we hadn't done any speed reductions, and I sound like a cracked record. We hadn't done any speed reductions in our district until we had the rules come in around 2016, and we could start doing reviews of the speed limits that were quite stupid. And I just want to take, for example, on focus on first Whangaroa Village. There's a road called Lua, which is 100 k's at the moment. It's a steep and that's you know, we moved in December to reduce that through this change. And also the marae on Wainui Road. I had a site visit with the kaumātua there, you know, in the lead up to them finishing that beautiful refurbishment, and they wanted to have the speed reduced there. That we achieved that through the adoption of speeds last December. We all know about Kapiro Road and Kirikiri Road. You know, we've had people come to us, not just through the submission process for the review of those speeds, you know, that comprehensive consultation. They came to us in separate meetings or in a long-term plan consultation last LTP and the LTP before. They said, why is our speed, you know, so high?
Point of order, Deputy Mayor is not speaking to the motion.
I'm speaking to
Deputy
my
Mayor is speaking to speed, and I was very clear that I am not debating the speed. I'm asking for it to be deferred, pending the minister's.
I'll get back on track.
I do not wish to deliberate on speed. That matter has been resolved.
Thank you, councillor Court.
What I'm seeking is that our implementation that we approved in December is not put on hold through this notice of motion. So can I please have a seconder for my amendment, because we should not lose the funding. And Councillor Court's notice of motion specifically puts on pause what we adopted in December, what our people asked for in December. I'm sorry, I'm really, really cross about this because we. Here's my notice.
In favour of the point of order. Councillor Hauki Harawira has seconded this foreshadowed amendment. Should councillor Court's original motion fail, then the foreshadowed amendment will go up for voting.
Sorry, my intent is to add that to the current one.
Can I just get confirmation for clarity for you, the chair, that councillor McNally was supporting or seconding the deferral when you spoke?
Councillor McNally is
So on the
seconding
table,
this motion.
which is to
Current
defer.
motion.
So the current motion isn't, so the current motion as I have it, which I'll give to you, is the council defer the decision to adopt the interim speed management plan for Cherry's Ferry Bay of Islands, which includes the following subcatchments, which was 1 through 10, as decided on the 16th of November.
The motion I have in my agenda is that council considers the impact of the impending changes that will be made to the land transport setting of speed limits 2022.
Yeah, thanks Casey for that, because that's where I've been confused. It sounded like something was being spoken to as notice of motion says to consider.
Yes.
That was one of my questions. I had two others as well.
Do we have before Stratford's amendment put up?
Sorry, if I could just get one person speaking at a time, we'll go with councillor McNally.
Could we get what councillor Stratford's proposing on the screen? The existing motion is that we look at the impact of the impending changes. What's she proposing? And then we're going to have to vote each one.
Okay, so. It's just the original.
Deputy Mayor Stratford, I've ruled in favour of councillor Court's point of order just then. And you've put this up as a foreshadowed amendment. A foreshadowed amendment is an amendment that will go through should the original motion be defeated. But can I just get clarity from standing orders on that? Because
Can I just add though that there are two speed things. There's the regional one, which yes, we should stop and consider that, but the speed implementation of the ones that we consulted on over a year ago should still go.
thank you, Deputy Mayor Stratford. Now, should councillor Court's notice of motion be defeated, then you will get to speak to yours. And I've given you your time to speak against her motion itself and your foreshadowed one. So can I just get clarity, please, case? There's a foreshadowed amendment.
Sorry, just a part of
We
it.
will still go to a vote on councillor Court's. If that passes, that defeats the foreshadowed amendment.
But I just want to be clear that the original mover and seconder of the council consider the impact, the impending was councillor Court.
Clarity, my motion does not require council to vote on anything. My motion is only asking you to consider.
That's right.
That will lead to a motion. We had this conversation when we put the paper together.
And my question was, they both support each other. One is to consider the impact, and the second part is, I'm not sure about the wording because I haven't got my glasses, is to defer.
That's right. Thank you. So.
So-
Chair Anne was.
So they can actually.
What we need to do, sorry, what we need to do without any resolutions this council makes is to whatever comes through here is the direction we set for our staff to follow. Now, the direction is open for interpretation or misunderstanding, then we're going to have a problem with its implementation following. So the motion that we have at the table, as councillor Court has said, is for us to consider. Now, if staff are unsure about what consideration means, they need to bring back to us after they've considered what they recommend we do as the next steps, is what I would take from this. Councillor.
Point of order, Your Worship, procedural.
Yes, please, councillor Boyd. Sorry, councillor.
The way that standing orders works is you do an amendment, we vote on the amendment, and then it becomes part of the substantive motion. At the moment, you're treating the amendment like its own separate motion.
Deputy Magistrate should put it forward as a foreshadowed amendment, not as an amendment to the original resolution. Unless you. Do you have the standing orders, can I?
No.
Is that right with the foreshadowed amendment? Is that you can-
Provide some explanation.
Yes, please, councillor.
The intent of my notice of motion was not to say stop or go. The intent of my notice of motion was to simply say, since the council made the decision, new information has come to light that may have an impact on how we thought. Can we have a conversation around our thinking, and that will ultimately lead to a motion. That motion is we proceed or we don't. I think we've leapt ahead a bit here. I don't think it's that complicated.
Speak again.
That's seconded by councillor.
So can I have clarity? So what we are doing is just considering it, sitting around the table and doing it. Nothing is being stopped.
It has, it says in the briefing paper. Sorry, Your Worship.
Well, that's where it is. So the motion itself says council consider the impact. And then in the briefing papers, it says stop. That's caused confusion. So I think that needs to be clarified because I agree with there's some anomalies we've got, like Kirikiri Road, where people still not probably against our.
Said the airport, so it's ready for that to be.
So I don't want to see those things where it's clearly an issue.
Through the chair, just to clarify the briefing paper, when a notice of motion is received on a decision made by council, at that time, staff must stop any irreversible work on that decision until the notice of motion is heard. So that has been placed, that work was placed on hold on receipt of the notice of motion. Once that has been heard, depending on the consideration and outcomes of that discussion, which is happening today, then staff will either proceed or not proceed depending on those outcomes. We are required not to proceed with irreversible works as soon as the notice of motion is received. So that the briefing paper, when it says has stopped, that means from the time the notice of motion is received until that is considered by council. Does that clarify, Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, but then if we vote on this or not, presumably you can go ahead or not.
So
That's
through the chair, if council accepted the motion, considered it, and nothing, and as a result, there was no vote to defer or to do anything else, then that would be deemed, as far as I understand it, the motion was considered, and then we would continue to proceed. Just to clarify, a couple of things in those. At the moment, the first thing that there is I guess, not reversible without significant effort is the final sign off from the Director of Land Transport. So as soon as that's signed off, that becomes the approved speed limits for implementation. So we had the speed limits sitting in front of the director to approve at the time the notice of motion was received, and we advised Whakatahi staff to put that on hold. That was the reversible decision effectively. If we hadn't done that and it would be proceed, because those speed limits haven't been approved, we can't proceed with any other items. So until council have considered.
Thank you, Kelvin. And just to rule on councillor Foy's point of order on procedure there, you were correct.
Thank you.
The wording was wrong in that it was shadowed amendment. Shadowed amendment is if there is already an amendment on the table, which will then get considered after the original amendment is defeated. As this is the first amendment, councillor Stratford has moved an amendment to the motion, which has been seconded by councillor Haukiat Harawira. We now go to, we put on pause the original, and then we go according to this pretty little diagram. I reckon, do you reckon by the end of this, I'll have it, like, I'm pretty sure Mia Carter's just to make it up. So we do have to open up the floor to debate for Deputy Mayor Stratford's amendment. If we could get that up on screen. Yes. It has been moved and seconded, and Deputy Mayor Stratford, you may now speak as mover of this amendment to its merits.
Apologies, everybody. So I totally support the consideration of the 24-27 Regional Speed Management Plan being placed on hold and seeking, us getting further direction and decision, giving a decision to staff after we know what the rule is. But we have been sent some signals on their website, and I don't think that what they're signalling is actually going to conflict with the separate take, which is the Bay of Islands, Kirikiri section of roads, which have been there's Opua, Haruru, Paihia. Those communities were comprehensively consulted with well over a year ago. Kirikiri, Whangarua, Kyle, many of those people, I've been to meetings in those communities where they're like, why can't we get our speed reduced, along our road? Some of these roads are 60, there's a little side road off Waipapa Road, Pounamu Place, it's 100 k's, it should be 50. So that's why I'm pushing for us to not hold back on what our community, our locals have told us they want, the people that live in these homes, they want, and but I total call pausing the regional speed management plan, and that's why I've lumped it together with, within. So the first part, the council consider the impact of the impending changes that were made to the land transport rule, blah, blah, blah. And that council continue with the previously approved speed management plan for Kirikiri Bay of Islands. You've all heard my spiel on it before, so I'll stop there.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stratford. Councillor Haukiat Harawira, as seconder of the amendment, would you like to speak to it?
I need to say that the new amendment just incorporates both trains of thought, and I'm comfortable with it. Hilda.
Thank you. Open the floor to any member who'd like to speak in support or against. Councillor Foy.
Thank you, Member. I have two questions to the staff in order to gauge the work program and funding. So my partai to both our safety engineer and to NTA. Number one, with the $800,000 of funding, if we delayed it and didn't spend it how much of ratepayers' money would be not utilised and what other works could we put that into? If the minister did change the work program going forward and we delayed it until we knew that. The second aspect was if we do delay it and then it doesn't end up going forward based on the minister's new program, what would happen in terms of any placemaking elements or any aspects relating to what our safety engineer Elizabeth Stacey talked about in the submissions process, had that lead on effect into the low cost, low risk work program for this same financial year?
Thank you, Kevin. Are you happy to?
Yep, and I
You might not be happy, but we would. Questions there?
I might call on Elizabeth if I get stuck, but, so with respect to the first point, should the funding not proceed or not be uptaken, the reallocation of local share within this current NLT period would not attract subsidy for another activity. So, if it was decided not to proceed, then council could choose to use that for unsubsidized activity, but we could not reallocate that local share component to do something else because there is no other subsidy available. So does that answer your question?
So just to clarify in dollar figures, if it's $800,000, 28% of that dollar figure is the local share component. We're getting 72%.
It's under scrutiny.
Through the checks,
69% of it.
so the 71 comes into effect. Second component, impact on placemaking. So this is where I'm going to call Elizabeth up, I think. As I understand it, the majority of placemaking activities are not included within the current year's plan. They're in future years, although there are some of the placemaking activities that are dependent on appropriate speeds to be in place before that infrastructure can be built. So it is kind of a little bit situational, dependent on each activity.
Sorry, Councillor Boyd. Yep.
Is there a dollar figure for the amount proposed in the low cost, low risk related to placements? That if we made a decision today, that would impact that future work program and that financial planning and the next long-term plan, which is already outlined in the AMP and already lodged with NZTA.
From a speed review implementation perspective, this catchment isn't in the next long-term plan. We'd have to look at what other activities that are dependent on this are in the long-term plan, but I don't believe any of them are in the transport area. So.
Okay.
Councillor Vucic.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yeah, specific to that questioning now, Gilman, I just want to ask a question whether you're clear on that. So there's two parts to that. And that is, in making these decisions, including the previously approved roads, you are going to consider the impact of pending changes. So in other words, what we're saying is obviously money being saved where you can, and therefore this becomes your discretion to implement the reduced speed limits that have been identified and consulted on that make a lot of sense. And Kirriga Road, which has been raised as one that I would consider is an anomaly at 80, when you got 60 further away from Kirriga Airport. So I'd expect that to be, and around schools, to be dealt with in your consideration. But if there's any others that are sitting at 80 that doesn't make sense and there's no need to spend that, I think you would have that freedom to do that. Do you see that as meaning that?
Through the chair, with respect,
if our staff have put up anything, John, I would hope that they have already considered it.
Through the chair, with respect, that consideration has taken place through the process that we've already been through as part of the speed reviews. I think to underpin that, from what staff understand of the minister's intent, and we have put the regional speed management plan for 24-27 on hold, and it will remain. So with respect to this one, we understand that the minister intends that road controlling authorities consider and understand public feedback that was achieved through this process. We understand that we should consider, there's an indication that variable speed limits should be considered around schools and not the blanket limits. There are areas within here where variable speed limits have been considered. and I think are being applied. Yes. Yep. The final thing is for a stop to the blanket approach to speed limit reductions. And one thing that has been very probably lost in the process of the speed limit reviews through Northland is through the catchment-based approach, staff assess every road individually. And an engineering recommendation is put forward that forms the basis of the start of public consultation. Then council considers the feedback on public consultation and changes are made if it doesn't make sense. So from staff perspective, we have not applied a blanket rule, with the exception of the fact that there is guidance within the 22 rule about how you treat schools. So, but even with how you treat schools, we have still looked at every street individually.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Court.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to go back to what I said right at the beginning. That in bringing this notice of motion today, I did not wish to redeliberate speeds. The matter of speeds was won or lost on the day, depending where on the spectrum you sat. This notice of motion purely because I do not wish to see a wasteful use of ratepayers' money. And I think at the speed today, we could potentially put the ratepayers' contribution, which is $232,000, at some risk. It won't be the whole amount. Some of it may be at risk. As part of the government's 100-day plan, the minister said that he will revisit this rule. So I'm just asking for a pause. I'm not asking to redeliberate whether Kirikiri Road is 60, 80 or 100. I could go down the rabbit hole of drive to the condition still applies. It's the overarching legislation, so don't drive at 100 km an hour if the road is 60 metres long. I brought this notice of motion purely to say the minister has said that he will introduce a new rule. The rule will implement requirements for variable speed limits on roads approaching schools. Not all of ours have that, rather than permanent speed limit reduction. I consider it undesirable, the minister said, for road controlling authorities to apply public money and resources in developing speed management plans and ergo implementing them, only to have to revisit the plans when the new rule takes effect. Given this, I encourage you to consider the new rule before making any final decision. There is nothing to be lost by asking for this matter to lie on the table until the new rule is out, allowing the MTA the opportunity to provide a sense test, fact test against the new rule and come back to us with a report and saying, minor tinkering is required, no tinkering is required, and major tinkering is required. If we proceed now and Harold gets the instruction to go away and order $800,000 worth of signs, and we find then that we don't need some of those signs, we have to alter some of those signs, that would be a profligate use of precious ratepayers' dollars. We do not know what the minister's intent is, and we will not know what the minister's intent is until the rule is put before us. So this motion that I've got on the table today, Nelson, seeks to say, let's just press pause for a minute, check, if it still go, we go, need some alterations, we alter it. But I think you've got a bit emotional in this
Point of
debate.
order, Councillor Vucic.
We are speaking to this motion, not the original. We should be focusing on this.
I am, but I'll wait for it.
Roll in favour of Councillor Vucic's point of order. Councillor Court, if you could please ensure that you speak against the.
In summary, Your Worship, I believe that pushing ahead with this now potentially puts ratepayers' money at risk.
Kelvin.
Oh, beg your pardon, there was one, I did have a significant point. Sorry, Your Worship.
Calvin said, funding is approved through to June 24, no guarantee the funding will continue beyond that. I hope that doesn't impact on anybody's thinking, because that is flawed. The government is putting out a law that will require us to do this. They have to fund it. So I think it's misleading to suggest that if we don't pick up this funding now, we lose it, and that may influence electing this decision. I'll close.
Councillor McNally.
I'm a bit disappointed with this and I'll vote against it. Because the original part was just, hi-ho, let's get a clear understanding of the minister, what he's saying. My understanding of the minister's intent is he's back to basics of road maintenance. There's actually two parts to this. This speed management plans for 24 to 27, and the minister's indicated that that'll become discretionary, not mandatory. So, and Mr. Thomas has told us that that is on hold. The second part is whether we carry on as Kawhai Stratford's indicated, proceed with this that we've already consulted on. We may do that, but just hanging on until we understand exactly what the minister does want. Now, if it's a month, I don't think it's going to affect anything. And as Councillor Points pointed out, if we print a whole lot of signs that say 60k, and he says we don't want any road at 60, or it's on a managed approach, so we need some 80s and 60s or whatever, they might turn out. What are we going to do with them? You know, and so that Councillor Court's point is there's no point, there's no need to rush this. With what is it, 10th of February, 11th of February or something? We've got to the end of June. Put them signed up, won't take long. So long as they're put in the right place.
Thank you,
And our
Councillor.
house movers don't bowl them as we drive along the road, it'll be good, we'll save money.
Councillor Coupler.
I clearly want to come back to our discussion here. And for my English, it clearly says consider. But an outcome of our consideration debate here is defer or halt. The underlying narrative that we're hearing today is around the consider the impacts. I think for myself, I'm thinking in terms of if the rule, and the rule we're talking about is the setting speed limits. And if there's changes within that, as Councillor Ford mentioned, the tinkering will take effect. And I think what tends to happen is because of our learned councillors who are in that portfolio have the narratives that capture all the information here. We're working off the information that's on the table here. My biggest concern is kahika ngā tangata I tū ki te tuku, o rātou kōrero, o rātou whakaro, o te holo o ngā motoka kei runga I te pepa, kei kone. Tuatu tēnā, ngā āhua, ngā rori katoa puta mō tai tokana, ka hau mai āmuri tēnei. When the new rule comes in. No reira, Calvin, I've forgotten your name, but all I know is in here. Tell me, the thinking will be around supporting what Constitution Republic. That's my primary focus. There's people, they've submitted their kōrero, they've submitted their reasons why. And if the rule is going to go so opposite this, then it's our responsibility as councillors to support these people who put their recommendations through. So in some ways, deferring, if that is where our direction is going, we would need some time frame. And if this other thing is that what can actually progress without falling into the bigger pool of major changes, because 800K, if it's lost, difficult to draw that.
Try and answer your question through the chair. So then it kind of links to the point that councillor Court made about the 800,000 and I guess the point I was making, we have current approved projects within the 21-24 LTP program that are funded related to this catchment implementation. Councillor Court is right that government needs to support any change in law. However, at present within our submission, we do not have any projects within the next LTP because they are already catered for in here. So it would require a change to the LTP and it would require a change to the submission to Waka Kotahi, noting that we already understand that the National Transport Fund is restrained. Also want to make it clear that staff are not advocating one way or another for speed limits. We are here to implement the wishes of council. So we have attempted to highlight the risks, our understanding of intent, and the process that has been gone through. When it comes to implementation, it is a little bit more than just going up and putting up some signs. So when we put this on hold, until we receive the director's sign off of the speeds, we do not fully progress the detailed design of the implementation plan. So as I understand it, we don't yet have a full detailed design. So that activity still needs to be undertaken. The detailed design then informs the procurement and informs the installation. So that is the risk. In saying that, Councillor Court is completely correct that things may change that require rework. So those things today from staff, we were supportive of council considering the decision that was made and the potential impacts and are seeking direction on the way.
Thank you very much, Kelly. E hihi anau ki te kiki te kōtore o tēnei minita, e haka raru ana i a tātou I tēnei rā. Now, with all due respects to the Minister of Transport, also our Minister of Local Government, gee, he is causing kōrero across the country in council chambers as we all await His High Majesty's rules on high so that we can have better direction on what the heck we need to do. Now I'm someone who sits here and says, let us decide, right? Locally led. I'm in favour of this amendment. Now I know that we could waste money. There's the potential there. What I would expect though is that for the small ones, we know that with variable speed zones are incredibly likely because it's been stipulated to be out and it will be variable, not at all times outside the school, it should be 30 Ks. But it might be between school times or something like that.
Can I just check something with the
In any case, I'm in favour of this one. Because we've gone out, we've asked. We're going to get $552,000 from NZTA, it's already been approved. Putting up 248,000. The changes that are being signalled as potentially impacting on this, I do not think are going to cost us 238,000 or are going to affect us losing out on that 552,000. So absolutely acknowledge what Councillor Court and Councillor McNally have brought to the table here. But this is one of those ones where, guess what? I'm feeling a little bit rebellious today. And so I'm just going to vote in favour of this one. Thank you, Calvin.
Yes, through the chair. Just pointing out as well, as I mentioned, the detailed design phase is still in progress. There is, I guess, and there is also a time frame for the Director of Transport to approve the speed limits. So should council, we could capture things within that time. So what I'm saying is that there is still some time before the physical implementation commences, where we could wait for have the guidance from the minister and reassess impact before any physical implementation. Should we agree to just proceed with the process moving forward today? Again, it's a specific.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Stratford, right of reply.
I just want to say thank you very much for adding in the detail. So which council meeting it was. Just want to reiterate that again, there are two different things. So still consider the 24 to 27 impacts. Sorry, the rule impacts which will apply to the 24 to 27, which we have not adopted. We just said we would go ahead and do one. You guys need to consider what that means now. But we're here as decision makers. We're the ones that actually set the speed limits, not the minister. And we've made a decision to implement those speeds based on consultation with the people that live here or own properties. And, you know, there is a local government act that gave us the powers to make those decisions, despite what that rule could mean. And honestly, what he signalled on the website is that he's taking away, it's going to be the minister that signs off things, not the director eventually. It's going to be discretionary to have the development of speed management plans happen. The speed limits around schools are going to, you know, that rule is being revoked. But what we want for our communities, what they've told us they want, is more important to me, and it should be to everybody around this table, than what the minister says. And yeah, I think that I'll leave it at that and see where that's going. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll put this amendment to the floor. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Councillor Foy, Councillor McNally, Councillor abstention from Councillor Radich. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3 against with 1 abstention. The amendment is carried, which will now, wait, I've got a little graph thing. The amendment is carried. It will now become a new substantive motion. Which I will need a mover for.
Can I have a question before we go? When are you meeting this next?
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Pliskevich was in favour of it. Hopefully next week.
The 24th of February, 3 p.m.
At least it's hopefully. So this amendment now forms a substantive motion, which I will need a move. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stratford, and a seconder.
Aye.
Thank you, Councillor Haukia Paruira. Yeah, we'll put that to vote. All in favour say aye. Those opposed?
Opposed.
And we've got the same, please. And that is carried. We will now go to a break, a 10-minute break. I will see you all back here at.
Very much, email pause, Ali. Please. Thank you.
So Harley, if we could get a countdown to resume our live stream.
Stand by, and live stream is resuming in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Thank you very much. And welcome back to our council meeting. We are now going to give way, because I love them, and move into the public excluded section of our meeting, and I'll just find my resolution to get us there. So I'll be moving a resolution to exclude the public for items 9.1, confirmation of previous limits, 1.2, 11 Matthews Avenue, Pattaya, and 1.3, additional funding request for the Te Huku Sports Hub. We have Manu Hiri who have travelled far to come for this, so we'll jump over to PX so that we can deal with that before going back. As a part of this resolution, we will also request through for Mark Osborne representing the Te Huku Sports Hub to be admitted to the public excluded section of the meeting, so he can provide a PX deputation to us, as well as Kawati Wakeford, our council. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Stratford. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed or abstentions. Motion is carried. If we could please pause our live stream. Good day, welcome back to our ordinary council meeting. We've just come out of public exclusion, where we had 3 items on the table which will remain in public exclusion for the time being. We'll move on to item 6.1, the confirmation of our previous minutes, which has been moved by Deputy Mayor Stratford, seconded by myself. Deputy Mayor Stratford and myself don't want anything in particular in our agenda preview, but did any other members want anything that needs correcting from our minute? All right, we've put that to a vote. All in favour say aye. Those opposed, or abstentions, is carried. We now come to item 8.1. Page 85. Our community board minutes. We'll now go to our community board minutes on page 85. And that is that council note with 3 community boards minutes. And I'm happy to move that. If I could get seconded, please. Thank you, Councillor Vusic. We'll head over to Community Board Chair Gardner to speak to the 12th of December Tapu Community Board minutes.
Thank you. Right. Way back in December. Good ones. Right. In the public forum, a number of people supported the extension of the for A&T Trust. It was awesome to see because this was made on that particular agenda for that lease. And we're very, very happy to fund a couple of funding applications, and particularly the one for the Okaihau College that was holding the Te Tai Tokerau Festival. With a number of our schools are going to be attending the festival, so I'm very happy to support that of $6,647. And the other approval was to the Awanui Sports Club, who are going to be resurfacing their netball courts. And they had actually gone out and found funding themselves to a huge amount, and we were just making up the shortfall. So 13,751. So I'm very happy to do that. And there's no other business. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair Gardner. Councillor Vusic, I wonder if you wanted to highlight anything in particular from Community Board minutes?
Yes, very good. We held that actually meeting at the Martin Road Park. It was really nice setting there while this. Really appreciate it going on as well. Chance that all around. And just a couple of comments. You'll note that the bowling company is interested in gave approval for an item that's further on our minutes. And it's very keen and pushing for locals that's the North Agenga subdivision, is keen to see some work that's being done. So that's about all, and I still following that. See our subdivisions in a long term, so you can see where they fit and all of that. That's really all I have to say, I think. Yes,
thank you. We have Bay of Islands Whangaroa Community Board Chair Ward online with us. Chair Ward, would you like to speak to your Bay of Islands Whangaroa Community Board minutes?
Briefly, in the interests of energy levels, thank you, Me Moko. We have a very small meeting, smallest in board's history, I believe. We were finished before lunch. So just would like to acknowledge that, and also to thank staff for the improved reporting on assisting with our road naming. We're still getting a lot of road names through, and you'll see in our report we've had a lot in Te Reo, and I just would like to know that we were given assurance that the macrons will be placed in the appropriate positions. I think it's really important if we're going to do this and support and follow the community's desire to want to name roads in Te Reo, that we actually get them right. So I'll just keep it brief and leave it there. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much for joining us, Chair Ward. I was the mover, but don't have anything further to add other than to continually thank our community boards and the incredible work that they do across our district. Councillor Research, you were seconder, but you did get to speak there. Did you want to add anything to the other community? Happy to open the floor. We'll put that to a vote. All in favour say aye. Those opposed or abstentions, and that is carried. We'll now move to item 7.1 on page 21. Release extension request to the Opori Ngāti Kahu Te Rarawa Trust.
It's a conflict of interest to me, so I'll just step out of the room. Thank you.
Conflict of interest. Moved by Councillor Research. Could I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Court. Councillor Research, would you like to speak to this at all?
No, I note that the Eke Community Board is making a recommendation, so confident that it's great and it's a good cause.
Thank you. Sorry, I just want to, with Councillor Halkiad Harawira clearing a conflict, I just want to make sure that we've got 6 of us. Here we do. Councillor Court?
No, sir.
All right, we'll put that.
Sorry, before we do, did Michelle want to speak to this at all? Sorry.
I take everything as read unless otherwise indicated for questions that can Deputy Mayor.
We don't love you, but it's.
I have 4 reports. I'm happy to stand here.
It's pro forma.
Total.
So the A&T Trust, they requested a new ground lease end of last year, well, June of last year, okay, right here. We did public consultation back in October. It ran from October to 27th of November. There was a huge interest in it. There was 91 submissions received. 83 were in support and 5 were against the proposed lease. And a total of 3 submissions were heard by the Te Heke Community Board on the 12th of December, and all of verbal submissions were in favour. So on that note, we are still following through with that recommendation, which the Te Heke Community Board approved, well, recommended.
Yep.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to the motion, Deputy Mayor Stratford? Put that to a vote. All in favour say aye. Those opposed or abstentions, the motion is carried. If someone could get Councillor Halkiad Harawira. Now I have item 7.2 on page 44. New ground lease to the Te Rarawa Rugby Club Incorporated over the Rarawa Memorial Domain Reserve, Domain Recreation Reserve. If I could move for this one, please. Thank you, Councillor Court. Seconder.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Research. Councillor Court.
This and the name for all the rest of the former that into the community boards. That's the appropriate forum to decide. We just have to rubber stamp it.
Thank you. Sentiment shared, Councillor Research. Well, the only comment I'll make is that with this lease, I hope to see many more, not only Northern Taniwha or Northern Coney players, but All Blacks and Black Ferns from out of this mighty district and mighty region as well. So I'm happy to support it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed, abstentions, the motion is carried. We now move to item 7.3 on page 53. The motion for the new ground lease to the Hokianga Bowling Club over 61 Kenjan Esplanade. Got the recommendation there. Councillor Lucid, would you like to move there?
Yep.
Happy to second that. Any commentary? Procedural, we'll put that to a vote. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed or abstentions, the motion is carried. Item 7.4 on page 60. New ground lease to the Play Centre, Alter Play Centre over 12 Street. Russell. I can get a vote on this one, please. Seconder. Aye. Thank you, Councillor Hakina. Any commentary there?
No. Okay, Michelle.
Put that to a vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstentions, the motion is carried. Item 7.5 on page 7.5. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, happy to move. Happy to move.
I thought you said the meeting's done, I was got. Yes, thank you. We'll
Move.
make that one. That will be moved by councillor Foy. Seconder for that one, councillor Vusic, councillor Foy.
And no, nothing to raise, great event.
Thank you, councillor Vusic. The only comment that I will make is that both the Cruising the Bays and the Maramarua Waterfront Festival and the Snapper Bonanza, which is another one that doesn't require road closure, are taking place here in the whānau in the period that State Highway 1 at the Brendurans will be getting a new lane put in and being repaired. That doesn't mean that our district or our region is closed. So what we are, every week I host, except for council meeting weeks, I host business and agency leaders call. The messaging coming through from those levels is if we can please shy away from the terminology closure, because our district and our region are not closed. The Brendurans at State Highway 1 will be getting these years, but there are alternative routes. There are scenic detours and tourist detours that will take an extra 20 minutes to still get here. So from our level, and this is for all of us in these leadership roles we share, we can consistently keep our messaging out there that our district, our region is open for business. We've got some amazing festivals taking place during this time to help stimulate the economy and everything like that. But I just take my hat off to these far northern leaders to put on these things and keep our district afloat. It's really exciting.
Just before we go, I just wanted to acknowledge the passing of Stuart Russell, who's the original organizer of this festival. And he's a real pillar in our Doubtless Bay community. So to his family and to all the people that will be missing him and remembering at this time, we'd just like to give remembrance and thanks to everything he's done for the community.
Thank you. We added a note to our minutes that the Far North District Council notes the significant contribution Stuart Russell made to this festival, who has recently passed on, and thank his family. All right, we'll put this to a vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed or abstentions, the motion is carried. We now move to item 7.7 on page 79. The appointment following executive hearings. Sorry?
Carry on, Chair.
Sorry, I'm lost.
No, you're good.
I'm good, okay. Item 7.7 on page 79, that the council appoint Mr. Simeon McLean and Mr. Pat Kalalea to the council's list of approved commissioners pursuant to section 34A of the Resource Management Act 1991. Get a move, please. Thank you, Councillor Vusic, seconder. Councillor Halkiad-Hatawira. Trish, I can see you're online. Did you want to speak to this paper before we put it to a vote?
Oh, only if anyone's got any questions. Sorry, good afternoon, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and other councillors. Thank you for approaching me to speak. I'm happy to speak if anyone has any questions.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Vusic is mover. Did you have any questions?
No, I go the recommendation. I'm sure they are very skilled and appropriate people to be there.
Accurate.
Councillor Halkiad-Hatawira.
No, there's good briefing in there. No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Foy.
And thank you, Wilfred, and thank you, Trish, for attending online. I can hear now the audio really great. My questions were just about the sign off of resource consent decisions.
Yep. How can I help?
So with Simeon and Pat Kalalea, given that they were both previous staff members, with this decision today to appoint them, could we be using them for sign off of our decisions for our resource?
Yeah, that's exactly what they are intended for, reviewing and signing off reports, not for hearings, not for joining the district plan review, the proposed district plan review.
Great. Yeah, just feedback that I've heard that there's a bottleneck, and thank you to you and your staff for identifying that and bringing that to this paper to us today. So people will be really grateful to see that we've got not just one additional record from Pat, our most experienced planner we've ever had, but also Simeon, who was previously. So well done.
Yeah, yeah, thank you very much for that, Councillor Foy.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor Stratford.
Yeah, I think that the intent for them to be involved in the consenting process, I understand, but we have a separate process for appointing them should they need to be used for hearings. And I just wanted to check if that process is still in place. It does say that they maybe, could be used for hearings, but do you mean that they could be used for hearings through our already in place policy?
No, I'm only intending to use these two independent commissioners for signing up, reviewing Section 95s and Section 104s. As you said, there's another pool, if you like, of commissioners that the council has access to that are involved in hearings and in the proposed district plan review process. And I wasn't intending to add it to the list, or I would have actually been in conversations with Roger's team.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Trish.
Thank you, Councillor Bishop. Right. Aye.
I'm good.
We'll put that to a vote. All in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? The motion is carried. We'll now go to our final item on page 100. Item 8.2, Council resolution. Get a move for this one. Councillor Ford, seconder. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stratford. Councillor Ford.
A bit of time on you for this time, Your Worship. Some things alarmed me. I want to bring my colleague's attention to the top of page 105 of the agenda. I don't know what it looks like online, but it's the resolution in regard to the storm flooding risk at the Turners End flood catchment. And I don't know if I was asleep at the wheel when we approved the $200,000 originally to design the scheme. But when I read in the report that it's currently estimated to cost in excess of $10 million, I fell off my chair. And it got me to thinking that we really do need to get a lot smarter in planning. And my notation on the side is what on earth were our planners thinking when they approved the extension of Oak Ridge, knowing that there was a stormwater issue that needed to be mitigated. And now there's an estimate of $10 million to that. That is simply not affordable for this district. And it got me reflecting on the stormwater strategy, and I heard a lot of conversation about that when I listened to you all eloquently speaking at the LTP day last week. And I just think this needs to assume an elevated mantle. We need to get ahead of the game in this space. For as long as I've sat here, we've talked about a stormwater strategy and we still don't have one. And we need to get smart, and we need to start making the developers need to. It's not fair to expect the ratepayers to come in after the fact and meet that kind of financial commitment. And that's just one. It's the Turners Centre subcatchment. I just wanted to say that. I don't know what to do with that yet, but I just wanted to say that. The other one that caused me significant concern was on page 110, and it related to the resolution of galleries with the Titai Tokerau Trust Water and the Oakleigh domain, and I apologise if I'm not saying that right. And as of 24th January, the staff was saying this needs to come back to council, which the changes to 3 waters. I don't believe that's the case. We made that decision to invest in that dam because of the economic opportunity it will offer, particularly to Kaikoi and Owhaiwai and Okaihau, and make really good soils irrigated so they can engage on economic prosperity. The fact that it might be used for a Kiwifuri alternate fine, at the time, you'll remember I debated quite fiercely that that was not practical or feasible when we had Lake Manawai that already had water piped all the way into Kirikiri and Lake Wangaro. So I'm concerned that that's sitting there. I would like to see that action. I want to see that dam go ahead, and I want to see that economic opportunity that would offer to this part of the district receive. Just would like some feedback on that one. And then I've got one more. And that is in regard to page 114, where a briefing paper was requested on how many reserve councils classification are, how many reserve nations we have, and how many are sold. And there's no notation to tell me we were at with that, other than we're continuing, and I just don't want it to be lost. But if we can come back to the water source one, I just feel like some surety that we're going to honour that pledge.
We'll have to speak of what's going on there.
The problem that I face is I can sit here, have a really good spleen pain, and I'll drive home feeling really good about myself. But nothing will happen unless it's recorded. So we do need to have a paper trail to ensure this goes ahead.
Yeah, and I remember from my speeches, we did discuss that, and I think I spoke, and that was to do with the impact that water would deliver. Secondary was potential options for territory should there, Lake Manawai be over committed on its project, but I understand that Love's already started.
Councillor Research. You did jump ahead of the Stratford that I was speaking order.
I apologise.
What I would ask is that our governance team take note of the particular open resolutions that members pick up here, and that we will require an update for this table. As a minimum, this table is updated with staff comment based off the feedback from elected members.
Yes.
And if that could be captured in the notes section of this resolution, so it's not lost. So Councillor Court has brought up the stormwater for Tuna Centre, that item, the Otawere Dam, and also the reserves briefing.
Water source options review. Reserves briefing.
Yeah, which is one for reserve Manawai. This one as well.
My concern is it gets lost because it's at the tail end of the Rangitoto Reserve. And so the staff comments are that process is completed, but there's no comments on where the
what's going on.
It's for a briefing paper on reviews. There's no comment on that.
If we can make that a part of our new process here, I think it will make the fact that we have this on our council agenda every single time more fit for purpose. Thank you, Councillor Court. Deputy Mayor Stratford.
Yeah, just I talk about what Ian said. I noticed the 10 million as well, and I'm very alarmed. But on the dams, I know that many of the ministers went with Te Tai Tokerau Water Trust, so they're aware of that investment that is in question because of Three Waters Reform funding, Three Waters Reform entity disappearing. But I agree, we remain committed with our share. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to commend the Ngākahu Trust, and in particular Des Mahoney, for all his work. The photos that are coming through to elected members show that the decommissioning is well underway, and we wouldn't have got to where we are today without Guy at the helm and without Tanya assisting him in that space. And I just to the three of them, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Stratford. Councillor Vucic.
I agree with that last comment. So what's happened there with Ngāpuhi is significantly rapid work and at very competitive prices. So I'm really impressed with what Ngāpuhi Trust have managed to achieve.
Thank you. Councillor Foy.
I think, I'll just, there's a few minutes to want to raise. First, I'll raise on the tail end of the matter relating to Ngāpuhi Dam, and well done that we've got to the stage here. However, as a political councillor who has their contact details on the website, I was the only person to be able to be contacted when the raw water supply was turned off. That was very alarming from people that had no water supply for their cattle, which, as you can imagine, this time of year is an animal welfare issue. I would question that all elected members should be able to be contacted in some way if their role is being an elected member. And if they don't have their details available, that has been made public, because I had people contacting me because there are no contact details at all for Councillor Radich, and nobody knows how to contact her, being the chair of the Ngāpuhi Dam Steering Committee. The issue, I thank Tanya Proctor for her work and being able to give that direction in order to pass that information on to those who are affected. However, given that this is, been a long time in the making, and these resolutions here reflect that, it was really disappointing that no one who is local to that area, like the people on the steering group, contact those people in advance to tell them that potentially in a year or 6 months or 3 months or 2 months or 1 month.
2 years.
Or 2 years that the
They
water.
were given a letter 2 years ago.
Well, that's news to me. So I definitely was not told that, and I was told actually that nobody had talked to them whatsoever.
They did receive the letter, and the steering group did actually suggest that staff get on with it. That was what, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, they haven't been writing.
Thank you. This is actually formal debate, and I appreciate that you have answers that you can respond as a number of conversations, but if you would like to ask on behalf of staff, please put your hand up.
Yes, so that was one matter that was raised about one of these resolutions here. So thank you to Des and the work of the trust, but just letting you know some of the public feedback, public process that I'm learning information about because I'm not part of this committee. Also, I noticed there's not a resolution on here about housing for the elderly, which I'm very surprised about because it's been a resolution, not just in the last term, but the term before, and having consultation for not just one LTP, but I think the last 3 or plus 2. So further to that, I just wanted that to be added as a resolution to this table and to question the timeline of that from the staff about the milestones in order to give effect to those council resolutions. Because as I raised in a previous council meeting, that is extremely frustrating to wait, not just one term, but this is now my 3rd term, and now nothing still was done, and that was the original council motion from way back when I started. So it'd be good to have a timeline for that to achieve the council resolutions that have already been.
Thank you. I've just had word from staff that, and huge apologies from them, but this is actually only half of our open resolutions table that didn't get copied over from the last one. So we do have some missing. Can we ensure that that is circulated and sent to all elected members so they can send questions through the staff based off of what there is? But just make that as a special note to ensure that's followed up, and also note that we do have our workshop next week for housing for the elderly in particular, because we have our resolution to divest.
Thank you, Member Court. And lastly, just to support Councillor Court's identifying of stormwater has been a big issue for our district and its lack of poor planning and even operational investment. I've already just last week sent an email asking who is the staff member that deals with stormwater as a specialist, because from what I know, all the staff have left. that are specialist stormwater engineers, and we only have one district engineer, which is dealing with all the enumerators across the district, which is totally farcical that one person could deal with all of them. So in short, we need specialist stormwater engineers and.
Thank you, councillor Foy. I'll also just ask our GGs that you check and update the contact details for elected members on our website. And if an elected member is not happy to have their phone number on there, that our council ones put in news that the call centre will take that call and pass it on as appropriate. I'll also just acknowledge in that space that usually we would, as an organisation, offer, should an elected member wish so, a cell phone for their use, for work use. That wasn't actually offered this time round, and a management decision was made just to give councillors that cap. I think within this role, it's really important to keep your personal and your work life completely separate. So if any elected members are choosing not to have their details on there because it's their personal number, then please reach out to our governance team, and I would expect that a council phone would be.
Oh, I was approached by, sorry, I forgot his name, and some guy from Opua who's had this long-standing issue next to the boatyard, and it's sort of been backwards and forwards between the council. I'm just wondering if that could be in that resolution report.
There's no resolution for it, no.
And the other one was maybe it's not on here yet, but our position on fluoride. Well, I raised it in the LTP about how it's a $6 million cost, and there's no funding coming from the government or the Ministry of Health. So, you know, yeah, just apartheid.
Thank you. Definitely stuff that we can raise with our chief executive and meetings with him, operational type things that that require decision here and now. Councillor Court, would you like a right of reply?
I'm just struggling where to go with some of this, your worship. We need a stormwater strategy.
Yes.
We've been asking for one for the 9 terms that I've been here. We still don't have one. Do we need to do a notice of motion? Is it as simple as making it a KPI? We put the budget in the LTP and nothing is happening. So, whether we're incomplete or not incomplete. Anyway, I just thought it would be really good to get a clear idea instead of us sitting here, perhaps being a little bit indelicate with our words because we're frustrated. What is the path forward to get these work streams resourced and delivered?
Mr. Chief Executive, are you able to comment on that? And I'd also suggest that our governance team pick up these open resolutions and work through them with yourself and senior leadership to say what is actually going on to address all of this.
Yes, okay, so you're aware that we've appointed head of infrastructure. We're currently working on Far North Waters Alliance and also the NTA, reviewing those. What I said was said many times a few months ago when I first joined here was I aspire to be able to tell you or tell people that our delays are measured in terms of weeks and months, not years and decades, because that's all I hear in the 6 months since I've been here. There hasn't been anything done with drains for 6 years or 10 years. We will have a strategy for drains. We will have a strategy. We will have an asset management plan running in the coming year. And from there, we can address a lot of issues that have been outstanding for many, many years, if not decades. I hope that helps. How much detail should we go into today?
I think it's really comfortable to read that one with the deputy mayor, pick it up, pass that here, please.
Thank you. All right, we'll put that to a vote. All in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed or abstentions, carried. Not too bad indeed, we've made it through our council meeting for today. 5 points of orders and 3 amendments later, we made it through our council. We did not need to vote for this in time or anything, so I'll take that as a success. I will now close this off. Te taukia tātou katoa, te atu wai o te tātou ariki o hiu karaiti me te aroha o te atua. Ia tahitanga ki te wairua tātou ki te ake ake. Āmeni.
Āmeni.
Thank you. Take care.